Welcome to the PaleyFest Fall TV Previews. I am Jessica Radloff, Senior West Coast Editor at Glamour, and I am so delighted to be your host for this very special conversation celebrating the new comedy on Hulu called Reboot. Thank you to City as well, which is the festival's official card and official sponsor, for help making this program possible. Today, we are thrilled to welcome the members of the series' gifted cast, and I would say that even if it wasn't in the script, because they are truly dynamite. So joining us today are Keegan-Michael Key, who plays Reed.
Hello.
Paul Reiser, who plays Gordon. Rachel Bloom, who plays Hannah. Calum Worthy, who plays Zach. Krista Marie Yu, who plays Elaine. And creator, showrunner, executive producer, and all-around brilliant overachiever, please welcome Stephen Levitan.
Thank you.
It is so good to have you all here. This is probably one of my favorite new comedies in years. I have never laughed so hard. I've watched the entire season already. I cannot wait for everyone that's watching today to finally get a chance to watch it. Steve, I want to start with you and ask you, what was your goal and what did you want to accomplish with a comedy series about reboots, basically?
Well, first and foremost, my goal in a comedy series is to make people laugh, which seems to be a slightly unusual thing for many comedy series these days. I've been trying to go for that, but I like a show that's funny. And then, secondly, I like a show that makes people feel good, that uplifts people. And I think I wanted to get this business right, to depict it accurately. I think that, we went to great pains to make sure that everything we did was the way it is in real life. And I think that even people in the business who would watch it would say, yeah, that's pretty much how that works. So those were my main goals. And then just to tell the story of these complex and interesting people. For me, this is a bit of a love letter to our business. I feel very, very fortunate to have had a career in this business. Never thought that would happen. So the last thing I wanted to do was trash a world that has been so good to me. And so I think we've depicted it accurately, but fondly.
You came up with the idea for the show while you were on Modern Family. How quickly were you able to take that idea and actually execute it?
Not quickly at all. That was several years ago. And I was, busy working on Modern Family, which still had a few years left. So, I thought, oh, this is a good idea. I'm sure somebody will do this. We're in a world of writers and people who work in this business. Somebody's going to say, oh, that would be an interesting story or show idea. So I assumed I would never get the chance. But then Modern Family ended. No one had done it. And then the pandemic began and I had some time finally. So I met with Keegan and sort of threw the idea out to him to say, hey, what would you think about this? Would you be interested? And he said, yes, I'm just doing 16 other things today, but I would be interested. So off I went and wrote it over the hiatus mostly, or over the pandemic. And here we are many years later.
I was going to say, not only did you execute a truly amazing comedy, but you got together this incredible cast, which I still can't get over, to have all of you in this series. How did all of your castings come about? Steve, we just heard you say about you met with Keegan, threw the idea out to him. So Keegan, I want to know what you thought, and then I'd love to hear from everybody else, Paul, Rachel, Krista, Calum. How did this come to you?
And could I just quickly jump in and say that we're on, because they're working today, we unfortunately are missing two of our key people in Johnny Knoxville and Judy Greer. And we wish they could be here, but sorry, just wanted to jump in and say that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do wish they could be here. It's always, we've become a pretty kind of cohesive group, I thought, in a very, very short amount of time. My first impression when Steve was pitching it to me was, I always know, I always feel like something's a good idea if I go, oh no, how has no one thought of that yet? If you have to get nervous, Jessica, you have to get the right kind of nervous going, oh God, we got to make that quick. We got to make that quick before something. And if you're starting to get that feeling, then you know you're onto something. And that was my initial feeling when Steve first pitched the idea. If you think, I guess I'm reiterating myself in a different way. If you think, oh God, why didn't I think of that? Then you know it's a good idea.
I love that. Paul, by the way, you have never been busier. You're about to go on a stand-up tour. You were in the Kominsky Method, Stranger Things, the Mad About You reboot, or I don't know if we want to call it a reboot. It was a continuation. Like you have
the boys. He's in The Boys.
Exactly. So what did you love about playing Gordon? What excited you about this script?
Well, first of all, it's here's the easiest decision I've ever made. I got a call. Here's a great script by Steve Levitan with all these wonderful people attached. Would you like to join? Yes. That's how long I thought about it. So it was a really, it was obviously a great project and going to be great fun. And the extra bonus for me is like, well, it's a world that I know really well, but told from a different side. So instead of having actual run-throughs where you scratch your head and have a long, painful walk back to the writer's room and thinking, how late are we going to be here? Now we actually shoot the walk and go and hear what these knuckleheads are saying. And the sitcom that is having the problem, that's not really the issue. So to get behind the scenes and see the darkly funny conversations with executives. They had a comedy who's new to humor. It's like, okay, I haven't heard that joke actually on TV. I've heard it in meetings, but I never saw it actually brought to life. So it was really fun to just reverse the angle and be on the other side, making our show about making a show. And as Steve said, it really is painfully accurate and funny, comically accurate.
Rachel, how do you come into the fold here?
I got a call. I said yes. And then I said, here's my rider. Let's see if you can meet it. There's nothing in the rider, so they could meet it.
I like when she plays hard to get like that.
But no, I was so thrilled to do it. And it's a character that I instantly connected with and understood. And the script was just so great. It's what Paul's saying. It was just a no-brainer.
And you all gel so well together. I mean, you see it here on the Zoom so far, and I wish Johnny and Judy were here too. I mean, it's like you've been working together for years. Krista, Calum, did you know any of these guys going into it? And what was your experience like auditioning?
You first. I hadn't heard of any of them. I was completely aware of anybody. I was a big fan of everyone that's attached. And
write that down, Steve. Write that down. We got to put that in the show. As soon as I saw Steve's name attached, I immediately was wanting to be a part of it. And then when I found out that the members of the cast were part, I was just blown away that they were able to put together this all-star team. So I just wanted to be on the team. And so I was really excited about the idea of playing a former child actor, because I was a former child actor. And it was such an honest, heartfelt, and hilarious take on being a child actor growing up in this industry. And it's just clear that Steve has had so much experience in this business because it is such an accurate depiction. And I'd never seen a project like this before.
I realize how freaking lucky I am every single day. Every time I think about every single person who is involved in this, it's like a new gift. And every time I remind myself, I feel like I'm reminding myself of a dream every day. Every single actor on this show is somebody I've looked up to. Now I'm going to cry. From afar. For a long time, just huge, brave choices. I had a run-in with Calum, one of my very first callbacks in my entire life and my entire Los Angeles career. And I've never forgotten like his kindness that he shared. He held a door open for me, and this is like a Disney star, and said good luck. And it's pretty cool to like run into him again today and actually work with him. And Keegan, legend, Rachel, legend, Judy Greer, everybody is unbelievable, and Steve. So yeah, I thank my lucky stars every morning.
I love that. That's so sweet. By the way, what sitcoms influenced you as you were putting this together? Because obviously when I'm watching the theme song intro to Step Right Up, it reminds you of Full House back in the day. I also heard that My Two Dads had a bit of an influence, which of course Paul starred in. So tell me about that.
Well, I think at first there was a lot of Full House, because I noted that Full House they started showing it on Netflix, and it was doing so well, kind of in that nostalgia category, that they of course rebooted it into Fuller House. So that just stuck in my mind, that the streamer that was showing it brought it back. And then, I needed to concoct the Step Right Up sitcom. And in the way that I configured it, I had these two male actors and a female actor and a kid. I kind of just thought that was a good combination. And so My Two Dads came to mind in that there were these sort of two fathers competing for, a child in, to be the better dad or whatever, and or getting into trouble or all that. So I thought that those two things sort of just jumped into my head a little bit. And I don't know if I've ever talked about this, but in the very beginning, the idea for Johnny Knoxville's character, Clay, was sort of this pretty edgy, filthy stand-up comedian who got cast in this very soft, syrupy, I hope I'm not offending anybody, but a very let me say it this way, a very family-friendly show. And the audience came to know him through that show. And then they would go into his stand-up, see his stand-up, and be sort of shocked. And that was very loosely based on Bob Saget, may he rest in peace. So you just pick up little things from everywhere. There's also, my first show ever was Wings, the first show I ever wrote on. And that had two guys and a woman and a little bit of a weird, funny triangle and all that. So I you grab from everywhere.
Paul, did you know this about My Two Dads and the inspiration there?
No, this is actually the first time Steve has had the courage to say that.
I'm scared of you, Paul.
Yeah, well, who wouldn't be? I was a filthy comic. No, I can see it now, but yeah, sure. There were two guys and there was a kid, but no, we never talked about it. I don't do a lot of My Two Dads talking.
I remember.
Steve, syrup. People love syrup. There's nothing wrong with saying syrupy. You can say it's a syrupy show. People enjoy your syrup.
Feel good.
Feel good.
Show.
Also, I got to say, My Two Dads had one of the best sets. I will never forget that as a kid watching it with the car. I don't know if anybody else remembers, but there was like the back seat of a car that was in the living room that you would.
Yeah. I'm going to share something with you. Something. They had all these pieces on the set that were, I think, allegedly designed by Greg Evigan's character, because he was the artiste. So they had this seat that was a car and a table that was actually a bicycle upside down. Every one of those pieces made every cross and piece of business just brutal. It's like, and I was, you can't sit at this table. No, but it's a bicycle. It's funny. I'm like, no, I know, but you can't sit there because I hurt my knees. Yeah, we're gonna. So I have a different memory of those wonderful pieces of furniture. But good for you. Good for you that you liked it as a kid.
I did.
I'm here to just ruin everybody's dream. Krista, you're next.
Oh man, Steve, talk to me about the scenes in the writer's room. And I know Rachel and Paul and Keegan, you've all experienced that. I think those scenes are so authentic in the show. What excited you about writing those scenes, exploring that room, which is a really sacred, safe space? And also, how much did you struggle with how far you could push things, especially with Paul's character? And did you have to reel anything in?
Well, I think what sort of trying to get it right again was something that was exciting to me. But when we came up with the notion of two generations clashing in a writer's room, that's where it got really interesting to me, because I find it even now where, I can think of myself as a very, hip writer, the least hip thing somebody could say, a hip writer. No,
that was the word you chose.
I'm cool. Kids think I'm cool. No, and yet I'll be in a writer's room and then I'll pitch something or somebody will say something, and then you could see the youngest writers in the room being kind of horrified. And I'm like, no, I'm very liberal. I understand what offends people and why you can't say. And they're like, no, you can't. I've had these exact arguments. And so it seemed very ripe today, when that subject is something that we're all talking about a lot, that to get into, political correctness and, has the pendulum swung too far at times, and other times it's absolutely correct to slap back at some things that are truly offensive or hurt people, but other times can't we take a joke and anymore? And it's a very poignant topic, I think, today, and it affects people's livelihoods and all that. So I think jumping into that just felt really good. And it's such a there was the lawsuit many years ago about the Friends writers' room, where it was deemed a safe space, to a certain pushed degree, that, unless you're really actively hurting somebody, trying to harass somebody, it is a safe space to try to explore the boundaries. And so it makes it just a very unique place in this world. And I don't know, it just really opened up the show when we said, oh, that's going to be a fun place to go as well.
And I just want to throw in what makes this show, and specifically those scenes in the writers' room, so fun and rich, is that you get to hear the conversation about that, right? Because you usually hear, it'll be in the news, somebody, said something offensive, or somebody got slapped down for saying something offensive. So you see the result of it, but you don't see what that conversation is. And to Steve's point, there can be valid points like, well, come on, that should be okay. And so here, in like Gordon's character, he's going to be by design the guy who's not up to date, who hasn't heard that you can't use these phrases. And you hear him being corrected, and you might hear the pushback, and so you get to actually see that fun discussion, and you air some opinions and thoughts that might get lost in the shorter, condensed public version. So those scenes are joyful to read and to play, because you get to talk about things you don't do any other place.
I don't want to spoil anything, but there's a scene in the pilot, and then I think it's the episode 7 or 8. One involves a car in the first episode with you and Johnny. And a basketball scene later in the series, which I thought are two of the most hilarious physical comedy moments I've ever seen on television. Talk to me about how much fun it is to get to do. I mean, you all do such great physical comedy on this show, but fill me in first.
I hope that we get to do these kind of wonderful, broad physical comedy scenes again. I love doing physical comedy. And of course, if you have Johnny Knoxville in your cast, it's 50% of the show should probably be physical humor of the most dangerous variety. I mean, it's Johnny. In that regard, Johnny, of course, has been the gift that just keeps on giving. And it was so funny. I can't remember, Steve. Didn't he just say? He said it was something like, my poor stand-in stuntman didn't have anything to do that day. He was just standing there. There's just a guy off in the corner just dressed like Johnny. Like,
for insurance reasons, we always have to have a stuntman, doubled for Johnny standing, or there in case, they want to do it again, and he does whatever the reason is. And that poor guy just gets all dressed up, looks just like him, his hair done, everything. And Johnny just looks at the guy like, "You're never getting in there.
You're never getting in there. You're never
getting in there."
And that was like the third time Johnny got hit by a car that day. It means nothing to him. It means nothing.
All three on purpose. All three on purpose. But but he in that regard, a wonderful scene partner, because you really he knows what he's doing. I say that with quotes around it in a way.
You can tell. I mean, I can't wait till the viewers get to see some of those later episodes too. Also, the editing and the music and just how everything is shot. It is so snappy, and it just makes it such a fun watch. Also, bravo to you guys for doing this. Most episodes are like 30 minutes or less, and that is such an asset, which we don't get nowadays too much. That shows quality of writing and performances to pull that off and make it so good. I wish so many more shows were like that.
Yeah, it's one of the real joys of doing the show for me is, I'm used to, after 11 years of Modern Family, you have to deliver those episodes. They can be no longer than 21 minutes and 30 seconds, and you're locked in. And even if you have this wonderful scene, but it's a little bit, or a wonderful little moment or something, or, you want to bring somebody in and establish a little bit of mood, there's just no time. And, you find yourself at the last day, like editing out breaths to try to get it down to time. And it's terrible to have to do that and lose some really subtle, great little moments. So a real joy for me. And, probably the number one thing I've enjoyed about doing a streamer, or 1 and 2 are the freedom of being able to talk the way people actually talk. And, number 2 is just being able to just take our time and let the episodes breathe and, create some mood. And that's been wonderful.
You know what's really interesting about that? I found that to be true too, that it's great to not have the parameter, but with a comedy, there is a natural space that it wants to fill. Like for all the years of watching half-hour television, whether it's 30 minutes or 21 minutes, it's half-hour television. So if you get to 31 minutes, just something in your DNA goes, it's a little long. You know what I mean? It just, even though Steve has the ability, it could turn in a 40-minute show. He probably won't, because it just feels right in that, whatever that zone is, 25, 28, in there. There is a natural thing, which surprised me to see.
Going back to the writer's room, there's so many hilarious stories that are coming out of it in Reboots. And as absurd as some of them probably feel, I feel like a lot of them are autobiographical or things that you've all witnessed in your long careers. So when you're reading these scripts, do you go to Steve and be like, do you know someone this actually happened to? Or how much is this really based off of something that you went through? I also want Krista to answer this, because I believe your character, Elaine, is based off someone at Modern Family in the writer's room, perhaps. And Calum, I want you to also talk about that. But how much were you guys, do you know someone who really did this, or what really happened? Because it's absurd, but it's true, a lot of it, I think.
I have to say, before Krista answers that, because Elaine, there's a woman named Elaine Coe who is a wonderful writer, very funny. And that character, it changed throughout the time. And I named it after her in the beginning, but she's a fun writer. And then this character became this sort of, especially in the beginning, this sort of robotic network executive. And I think part of her would be slightly horrified that, wait a minute, I became this robotic executive, but still a badass. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Exactly that. She is obviously a badass, and whether like the character is based on, it's not her personality in real life, but just the fact that it even derives from Elaine Coe's name is such an honor, because what a freaking amazing human being to do all that she's done. And as an Asian American woman, I look up to that so much. So it's an honor. And I think I got to semi-meet her when she read all of the stage directions for the first pilot, and I could feel myself just geeking out, my eyes getting like bigger and bigger. It feels pretty cool.
I love that. How about for the rest of you? Were there anything that you went to Steve, you were like, what really happened here? Come on.
I will say real quickly that we were sitting on set and we were just talking about little details. I was talking with Judy one day about, I hope this is okay. She's made fun of it. We're talking about like indignities that actors have to sometimes suffer. And she said she told me that she came in one day to her trailer and there was like a full assortment of Spanx waiting for her in her trailer one day. And immediately I went in the script the next week, it was in there. So I'm constantly on the hunt for, those little tiny, like I never would have thought of that in a million years, but there it was.
That's hilarious. Calum, how about you, especially growing up in this industry as a child actor and stuff? How did you relate to Zach?
I mean, there's definitely a lot of similarities between Zach and I. We both grew up on sets. We both had the same Macaulay Culkin bowl cut until our mid-20s. But the difference was I went to school when I wasn't filming. So I actually had a relatively normal childhood. I also grew up in Canada, on an island in Canada. So it was really far away from Hollywood. Zach grew up solely on sets. He didn't have a normal childhood and he didn't have those normal stages of development. And that's what Steve really picked up on when writing this, is it's not necessarily, it's not unusual for these young actors and especially young stars to have a bit of arrested development and stay very young for a long time, because there isn't that normal stage where suddenly become an adult. A lot of the times parents have to move away from wherever they're from and maybe even quit their jobs so they can be with the child on set. And that really creates a complicated dynamic for a lot of families and for a lot of kids as well, especially if they're providing an income for the family. And so I thought I loved how the character was very accurate. But it also showed that some of these young stars don't always end up in these tragic stories. There's a lot of the more common thing that I've noticed is they're very kind and nice and sweet and very childlike for a long time. And I thought that was very smart of Steve to pick up on that.
I got to say, when we get to do these interviews, I am then reminded of what a great actor Calum is, because he is so convincing in the role that I go, well, that must be him. It's like, no, he's actually a mature guy and quite articulate and terrific. And you watch his character and like, well, he's 12 with big bones. No, he's acting. So I'm glad we get to do this because I only appreciate you that much more.
We recorded that, right?
No, I just
sent that to my mom. Got it all.
Does your mom still come to the set? Is that true?
She's watching right now. She's watching this right now.
Because I'm so simple-minded that I watch a show, I go, well, that must be who they are. And I go, oh, no, you're really good. You're really good. That character is so off the charts funny. And also, we get a lot of these scenes are segmented. We only work with certain people. So many of these scenes, when I watch them, were new to me. And when, all those scenes with Calum and Krista, I'm going, they're really funny and heart-touching. I was not prepared to be as moved and as entertained as I was watching everybody.
I also have to say, before every episode, sorry, there's a little child voice in the background because there's a child here. And there's also a toddler here in addition to myself. Table reads are inherently presentational. They're almost like reading one-act plays because you're projecting, you aren't mic'd, you're projecting off into a lot of people. And so the scripts are fantastic in the table reads, but there's a tone that the show has that you can't convey in a table read because they use our most natural takes. They really, as we were discussing, they use pauses where it matters. Like I agree, the editing is quite masterful, and it's something that can't come across even in a table read. So I also, in watching the show, was, even though I'd read all the episodes and heard them out loud, I was very surprised because they just felt new and different actually on the screen in a way that you could never convey in a table read.
Yeah, I agree, Rachel. There's this real natural, there's a real like verisimilitude to it. It's just real, you know, and
There is Reed. Reed makes a little appearance
yes,
right there.
My character just appeared all of a sudden. Yes, yeah. He just I was just in the middle of an interview and then I tripped over my character and a 6-syllable word fell out of my mouth.
Oh my God. No, it's so true. One of my favorite parts of the series is how much heart there is. And you also get, we haven't talked about this yet, but Steve, it's something that I think you do so masterfully here is that you get to see the real lives of these actors within the show, because you see the loneliness, you see the anxieties, you see a lot of what actors really do go through that I think the public doesn't see. And you get to see who they are as individuals, which is really powerful because, you know, writers struggle always with, is this going to be funny? There's so much pressure, you know, just everything they go through, again, without spoiling anything, but there is so much heart, which I think just makes the comedy even stronger. Was that something that was really important for you from the beginning to really show that aspect of what actors also go through that maybe the public doesn't realize?
Yeah, I think I was going for a sense of verisimilitude. Is that right?
Yeah, and you use it so naturally, Steve. That's what's great. It comes so tripping.
That's what I was trying to.
Write that down.
I thought that was a
6 syllables.
Yeah, I was I love actors, and it's funny because I realize how, you know, I'm fully aware of how vulnerable and actors have to be to go out and do what they do very honestly. It is not an easy thing. So and you know, we're all a little bit nuts in this business. And so for me, there's a wonderful push-pull that exists between writers and actors. And it's a team, and often it's a wonderful push-pull. But there's a, you know, why didn't they hit my joke the way they want, you know, that the way I thought they were going to do it? And then there's on the other side, like, I'm trying to bring something to this thing. Why don't they, everything have to be so rigid? There's a natural thing there that, you know, oh, they're acting like children, and they sit there and they give you that fake laugh at the run through, and, you know, when the joke isn't funny. And there's all those little details that happen in this relationship. You know, at the end of the day, I don't care who it is, you strip it down. And these are human beings who are trying in a moment to be just lay it out there bare and naked and make something real. And in order to get something that's just, you know, special, they have to really let it all go. And that's a challenging place. So I love actors for their ability to do that, even though they sometimes can drive writers crazy. And that's what I think is so wonderful about exploring that relationship and you know, getting to the bottom of it. And again, it's if this were a show about, like, you know, actors are a pain in the ass and network executives are robotic suits who do nothing but it would be boring. It had been done before, but this is, I think, more I don't know, more open than that. This is honest than that.
What?
More subtle than that, I think. I hope.
Yeah, you know, it's all the specific. Someone said, "Gee, are you worried that this show is going to be too inside baseball?" And I don't think it is at all, because, as Steve said, when you go into these relationships, the tensions, the anxieties, the insecurities between writers, actors, co-workers, that stuff's universal. No matter where you work, you have that. And to me, that's some of the most beautiful writing that I think in this season. You know, the scene that you couldn't see anywhere else, when Judy's character, who plays this insecure actress, wants to be in the writer's room, and she finally gets sort of a straightening out by Selma, the veteran woman writer. It's like, wow, I didn't see that coming at all. And it was very surprising and really sort of encompassed all the thoughts that were floating in the air. And as specific as it was to writers in writers' room, it really was about work ethic and respect for others. It just had so many colors. I thought, yeah, this is not a show about the industry. The vehicle is an industry, but it really reaches everybody, and it's really universal.
And I think the title really says it all, because like it's reboot. It's a reboot of your life. It's a reboot of relationships. And so it's what Paul's saying. It's really like a structure in which to talk about how people interact, and less to kind of satirize the industry. It does that too, but there's a heart to it that gets beyond like, oh, we're just doing fun jokes that they'll get on deadline.
This next question comes from the festival sponsor, Citi, and it is for Steve Levitan. The question is, get excited, Steve, here. Okay, all of the characters in Reboot have strong and diverse personalities. So what do you think these characters can learn from one another across the first season?
Well, I think that the number one thing probably is that they can learn that everybody is going through a version of what they're going through. That you may think you're the only one who has been struggling with life, or who has been, slightly disappointed by your last 15 years, or dealing with some unresolved issues. But everybody goes through these things, and there's a chance for real empathy. In order to become a family, you need to care, about everybody, and instead of just worrying about yourself.
I want to know, what sitcom did you grow up with that you would have loved to have guest starred on back in the day? And then Steve, your question is, what would you do if one of your 3 children wanted to reboot Modern Family one day? How would you react?
That's how old you are. Wow. Reboot Modern Family. It's been off the air an hour.
Was the first one for Paul? Is that?
What?
Yeah. What sitcom growing up would you have loved to have guest starred on?
All right. Well, growing up depends how old. When I was 7, it's not a sitcom, but I really wanted to be on Rin Tin Tin. I loved the dog. I loved the Civil War things, and you're climbing over a fence. I suspect some of that was not real, but still, I would have liked to have been in that world. I can't believe that came out of my mouth. I don't even know that I had thought of that in the last 60 years. Look it up, Keegan. Rin Tin Tin was very popular.
I know.
Okay. Krista, what show would you like to have been a guest star on?
I loved watching Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
But there was no German Shepherd in that.
But
just saying.
I would have wanted to have a drink.
Would you have liked to have guest starred on that show too?
I would have loved to, yeah.
Yeah, that's a fun show.
Just so fun, so wild, so wacky.
Keegan, how about you?
Well, I would have, I'm going to break the rules the way that Paul just did. I'm going to do 2. One is not a sitcom at all, but God, oh man, if I could have been on the A-Team, that would have been amazing. Just a guest star, that just one of the guys who can't shoot, the guy who unloads an entire gun but misses everybody. I'd be one of those guys. Or I would have liked to have played Jimmy, Thelma, and Michael's cousin. Like maybe in the same episode that maybe in one of the episodes Penny was in. I'm sorry, Good Times. On Good Times, I would love to have been like one of the members of that family. Would have been fun.
I love that. Rachel, how about you?
I had a lot of imaginary friends growing up, and so a lot of my imaginary friends were the characters from Disney's Afternoon, Disney Afternoon. And I was in an imaginary marriage with Bonkers from the show Bonkers. It got very real. Like I had a full wedding to him. I like pretended to give birth to his baby. I was a really weird 8-year-old. So I guess I just wanted to be living in an animated world in which you could also have sex with the animated characters.
Calum, how about you?
There was a short-lived Canadian sitcom called I Love Mummy. And it was about a single dad who moves into a new house. And as soon as they sign the mortgage, they find out there's a mummified mummy living in the attic. So they wanted a mommy, but they ended up with a mummy. And I loved that show. It did only lasted a season, but I think
you don't say.
I think we could reboot it. I'm going to call it Quibi.
There's also a Canadian show called Reboot.
There is.
That's about weird animated characters living inside a computer.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Really?
I thought that's what this show was about until this conversation.
Yeah. And in the opening, they all go reboot. They have.
Let me amend my comments about Calum.
Also, Calum, that's why Calum was so confused, Jessica. He's like, why are we on a soundstage? I thought I was just going to go in an ADR booth and a recording.
Yeah, he was confused the first couple of episodes.
Yeah, I didn't realize there was jokes. I thought we'd be doing the green screen thing with the balls all over you.
Yeah, and Levitan's process is Levitan's process, but why do we need all these props? And they don't understand.
But I went with it. I just went with it.
You did. It was masterful.
Oh man, I love that. All right, Steve, your turn.
Oh, which question? Which show? I would love to have had I would have loved to have had a drink at the Cheers bar. And then now being a little drunk, go back and date Marcia on the Brady Bunch. That would have been my thing. Yeah.
And then he stops off at one show to get the strength to be on the second.
Yeah. I'd be too nervous. So I need a drink at Cheers, then go back further in time and then date Marcia.
But the way to go back further, so what he needs to do, Jessica, is he's going to have the drink, then go to Quantum Leap, and then he'll go to the Brady's. He goes to the Brady's. Yeah.
Yes. And my kids would never do anything near what I have done in terms of they avoid me and my name and like you've never seen before. They refuse to take any help. They are determined to do it in this business on their own. And so I do not have to worry about that at all. Oops.
So there won't be a show, moderner family? Moderner.
Oh, I love it. You guys are the best. And I have to say, I truly mean this when I say that I have not felt so strongly about a comedy, honestly, since Modern Family. Modern Family, I will never forget when it first premiered. I was telling everybody that would listen, you've got to see this new show. And I feel the same way about Reboots. It is so wonderful. You are all so fantastic. I know it'll be in all the awards conversations next year. So I can't wait for everyone to see
From your mouth.
On that note, thank you for joining us for this very special PaleyFest Fall TV Previews with the wonderful cast and creator of Reboot. And thank you again to City for their support. You can enjoy more of these programs by clicking the subscribe button below. And thank you and have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, Jessica.
Thanks, everyone.